Hi, my name is April Montague Jackson. Today I will be completing my observing video. It will be a video held in Fort Worth ISD. I plan on seeing an observation of formative assessment. The title of it is Move It, Move It, Move It. This will be for my certification program only as an observing observation. Kathleen. Just me. I'm doing observing practice, so I'm just going ahead and videotaping because you can post it right me.
I didn't see you.
Yes,
but you're all fancy.
So fancy. Is Elizabeth coming today?
No, she went this morning.
Oh, okay, good for her. Okay. So how are you?
I'm fine.
Great lunch today?
It's good. Are we filming your face?
Yes, that's
Okay,
it.
we're ready to get started.
Okay,
Thank you all for being here this afternoon. Friday afternoon, we're on the downside of the week. We're going to do a formative assessment, so that will be an engaging training to make the afternoon pass quickly and head you toward the weekend. Last year, some of you came to some formative assessment things. We've been trying to follow up and keep specialists updated on what principals and teachers have been getting. Last week, Sandy came to principals meeting and did a session both for elementary and secondary principals about continuing the work with formative assessment. We had some teams trained this fall for campuses that had new principals or had sufficient staff change that they really needed to kind of reconstitute their change. So last week when Sandy was here training with our principals, I don't even think we were an hour into the first session when the directors and the assistant superintendents started saying, oh, could we get this like in the next week or two for the specialists, because we want them to know what the principals heard so that when they're out on campuses, they can be supporting teachers and working in the PLCs and getting them new ideas, refreshing their memory about what we're trying to do with the formative assessment, and make sure that we're all speaking the same language. So Sandy graciously agreed to come back this week and work with specialists on Friday. So that's how you came to be at this training. So, you're like, oh, that I wasn't on my calendar. So no, it was an addition after we saw how engaged and how happy the principals were with that training to want you to have the same so that you could have the information they have, both content and learning network specialists, so that when you're out working with campuses, when you're working with the curriculum, we can be all getting that formative assessment even more deeply embedded. And not just the assessments, but what we do with that information. And so Sandy's going to talk to you about that today. And probably the last time that you were in training with Sandy, it was Sandy and Karen. Karen had some family things that she needs to be home with right now, and so she is not able to work right now. But Sandy, bless her heart, has agreed to continue on the work with us solo. So I want you to give her your best support and best high energy attention because she has some really good stuff to bring to you today, and I know that you're going to like that way better than me talking. So I'm going to turn it over to Sandy, and she will get going.
Hey, happy Friday. And may our afternoon end with something that looks like burgundy. I don't know, whatever that means. Nice to be with you again and see your smiling faces. And today is really about hitting the pause button, going up Periscope and saying, so where are we in what we started a year ago? And what is our role in terms of actually moving it into practice? Because with all the schools and the many people that you work with, we're at different levels of implementation. So today is about going back, hitting the high parts, talking about what do we need to do for individuals, for campuses, for our own work, and to sustain the district focus. So when we talk about things like that, it's really about change. You know, how do we continue to make change with our practice, and that's tough. So Chad Davis, y'all know Chad, don't you? No, he's just fabulous. He's so clonable. Chad is helping me today get to the video. So Chad, here's a little something on Chad.
Emma.
But it's still recording.
Emma. Emma.
Moving it into practice so that everyone has the same understanding of it. And it's a difficult process. It's a transition. It's a pilgrimage. So our work right now is really about finding the right match. Finding the right match with instructional practice that matches the teacher and their developmental level. It's about finding the right strategy for the teacher that matches their content area. It's about finding the right campus that needs you in order to help and support where they're trying to go. So the right match means that it's bigger than just the yellow sheet. Remember the yellow sheet? It's bigger than that. It's now about trying to go and work on that sustainability that we know is so important for to really make a difference. So a big part of this is thinking about formative assessment as not just for this, but for results. So if we keep on with formative assessment, and we keep the perspective and the focus on it, then student results is what we're getting. So it's not just formative assessment because it's an initiative. It's not just because formative assessment is what we're doing this year. It's because formative assessment really makes a difference in what students are learning. So today, we're going to deal with that. We're going to massage that a little bit, and we're going to talk about what does that mean for our practice. But to do that, our learning is richer when we talk with others. So I'm going to ask you to think about having 3 learning partners today. One's going to be your laptop your partner, one's going to be your smartphone partner, and one's going to be your desktop. So on your blank sheet of paper, would you just put 3 little titles there? Laptop, smartphone, desktop.
You're not participating? I'm an observer. I need to move. I didn't even start this all over.
Are you recording yourself?
Yeah.
That's what I want. Like, I looked at it when I came and stuff, and I was like,
For her class.
Yes, I have to do observation, and so they're observing me, observing the
Okay,
situation.
so here's what it's going to look like. In just a minute, I'm going to say.
So you're not going to be my smartphone partner.
I do need to move, don't I?
No, you're just fine.
Okay, y'all ignore me. I'm an observer
Amy,
today.
how you doing? I'm Sandy, and I know Amy, so we're gonna be each other's laptops. So
I'm
write down
observing you
Amy,
right
you're
now.
gonna write down Sandy. And then that's it, we leave each other, we don't talk about the Super Bowl.
It could have been
or
any
certain weeks
situation,
Or whatever,
like
we're just
classroom,
gonna leave it,
like
right?
student
We'll go back to
council.
others, and then we're gonna come back to our home spot, got it? If you're ready to find your learning partner, please stand. All you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. That's it. It's time to find your partner.
Just be my smartphone partner.
Sure. Okay, I'll be your laptop.
Are you my smartphone?
Yes. I just signed up for a laptop. I need a smartphone and desktop.
Only an observer today.
Oh!
I'm so sorry I didn't participate with you. I know.
I'm I'm an observer today. Yes. So I'll see you later.
I need a smartphone.
Nice, and you're wrapping up your part. So thanks for finding those partners today. Invite you as we get to one of our partners, and we don't have a name. We'll just be creative, all right? We'll make sure you have one for today. One right here. We know this to be true, that there's many methods to, by the way, I need to tell you, you guys are a lot more fun than that morning group. I don't know how they sorted you, but you guys are fun. I like it. Anyway, there's two methods to assess. One of the things that we know to be true is that when we think about assessment, formative assessment, one of the ways it can happen is between lessons or day to day. And by that, what we mean is that we can have pre-assessments at the end of the lesson. So it could be a first word, last word. It could be a circle map with two colors in it. Or it could be a 3-2-1 as an exit ticket as they leave. You know, there's a multitude of things you can do, but the most important thing is you're collecting data and you're saying, did they get it? And then you're looking at the data and you're designing the next day's work. It could also be a quick quiz, a product, or a performance that's assessing one of the learning targets. But the key word here is learning targets. If the teacher doesn't have a learning target for the day and is shooting from the hip, then we don't really know if we're ever going to get there. So we haven't clearly defined the destination, and we haven't identified how we are describing success. So if the teacher hasn't done that, then the students won't get there. So then part of this is saying, is in our day-to-day instruction, are we being intentional about what we're teaching? And I'll be honest with you, this differs from campus to campus. If the campus is looking at lesson work, lesson designs, or lesson plans, and they're asking them and they're looking at it and they're giving teacher feedback about it, that's a whole different culture than, I know you're brilliant, no need to design or turn your lesson plans. So you see, you're kind of caught depending on the expectations of the campus. You can still work through it, but that's one of the gifts. And then exit tickets at the end of the lesson. The only problem with exit tickets is that typically teachers will give exit tickets, they'll look at it, but sometimes they don't do anything with the information. Or in their repertoire of strategies, they know only exit tickets. They haven't learned how to go back and put it back into the lesson every 10 to 15 minutes. Nonetheless, it is a way in which, between lessons, day to day, we can look at student work, and it's a viable lesson. We can also go within the lesson, and that's our ultimate goal, to get a teacher who's so intuitive with the students and so interested in whether or not they're getting it or not, that we're going to stop and we're going to check to see how's it going. So for the minute-to-minute, it can be a beginning of a lesson, an entrance ticket, which is particularly powerful if you've had a homework connection, and you're looking to see has there been relevance between what I asked the student to do and what they're bringing forward today. We experienced close technique. Close is a great one to do at the beginning of a lesson to know whether or not kids are with you or not with you. Or giving them their exit tickets from the previous day, putting them back and regrouping them with individual students to talk about perhaps the comments you gave on their exit ticket. But nonetheless, it's a way in which to begin and know where students are. And then in the middle of the lesson, it's a hinge point question. So in other words, you're throwing out a question and you're saying, which way do I go? I don't know yet. And that's why it's called a hinge. So with an appropriate question, I know exactly where to go with the learning of the students. In fact, hinge questions are so important, you may remember that in the Checking for Understanding, there was a whole chapter on checking for understanding through questions. So questioning is a viable way for formative assessment as long as the teacher knows what to do after they get the response. So let's look at a couple of simple ones that we can do, and then we're going to talk about how that can help us know if kids are really on target. So in the middle of your table, you've got a Ziploc bag. In the Ziploc bag, there's some ABCD cards that are put on rings. Each one of you should have one of those. I made these one night when I was lonely. Wasn't a lot going on, so I tried to throw it.
Yeah.
You what? I was wondering why yours had an A on it and mine had a B. Started with a B. No, I got it now.
Yeah. Took
So
a
you
second.
have your ABCD card. And sometimes teachers always know about these. They always know about ABCD cards. I don't see them a lot in abundance. And I want to re-enter that for a second about the things behind that. So here's how ABCD cards work. I'm going to put up a question. It's going to be A, B, C, or D. You're going to decide what the appropriate answer is. And I just want you to hold it at your chest. Will you take your ABCD cards and hold them just right here? As soon as you've decided on your answer, you're going to hold it here. And then when I say show, will you put it up high? That's what show means. Put your cards up high, please, with me. That's what show means. And show means I'm seeing the letter. So part of ABCD cards is teachers have to show what to do and teach it to kids, or else there's bedlam. And then they abandon it, all right? So that's what we're going to do. Now, depending on your background, this first question may make you feel uncomfortable. Stay with me, I'll help you feel comfortable, all right? So what is the area of the shape below? A, B, C, D, make that decision individually. Hold it here when you have the answer. Now, because this may not be in our content area, and you're not feeling real comfortable right now with that, I want you to check with your neighbor. Check with your neighbor, make sure you're okay. All right. I want you to feel comfortable. So you ready? So, will you tell me? Nice, and because we built a lot of comfort, you know the answer is B. Thank you for that. But that's not really what ABCD cards is about. ABCD cards is, of course, the right answer, but the question really is, what happens if a kiddo does A? What happens if a kiddo does C or D? So, what is A? Parameter. So if a kiddo's doing A, I know, whoops, that's the disconnect. What is C? It's wrong. The correct answer is B if you know, but what is C? What is that? It's a number. Actually, the team that used this question had just been teaching the area of a square the week before. And then the last one is the area of a triangle. Okay, so what ABCD cards is about constructing the questions so that when you get a disconnect or a miscue, you know what to do or how to address it. Now, if the teacher isn't going deeply enough, then student response cards look soft. They look like, okay, I'm checking to see if everybody has it. There may or may not be procedures in terms of how they show, so that there's individual accountability. It can get messy, so teachers will abandon it. What I value is when PLCs develop the questions. So what do you see in the kids having disconnects with? What kind of question do we need to address to do that? And of course, what ABCD cards have is that kids like it because it's manipulative. They get to kind of think about it a little bit. And then we have a chance to do something about it. Well, let's do another question. So what's the verb in this sentence? The boy ran across the room. Which one is the verb? Decide and hold. You ready? And show. Nice. So because we intentionally made this easy, I wanted you to see how it can flow. Once you do it, you train your students they can do it. But again, here's the question. If the answer is B, what's A? Noun. So now they could it's our subject also. What's C? Preposition. What is D? You got it. So now because I've constructed the ABCD card, I now know where I need to go if there's confusion. Last one. Which words best describe this triangle?
Upside down.
So I'm going to force you to make a decision now, and then we're going to talk about why you're looking at me the way you are. So make a decision and hold.
No, it's not equal out. That's
So
what
here's what I
I'm
want you to do. When I say show, and don't do what the principals do and not do it. All right? Work through the discomfort. Here we go. Show.
No, I know it's upside down.
So now we have a multitude of answers. Now, if I'm in a classroom and I get this kind of divergence in terms of answers, here's what I'm saying to myself. I'm saying either I got the 6th period classes here, you know what I'm saying? The wild animals. Or maybe there's something wrong with the question. I'm not saying it's always the question, I'm just saying that's a red flag. So the problem with this question is that there's not clarity of the question. And so because of that, the answers I'm getting back are a little skewed. So when teachers say ABCD, have you used ABCD? Yep, I did that. Then as a learning specialist, a content specialist, the next question could possibly be, how did you decide on your question? And when you got a miscue from your students, what did you do with it? And what did the ABCD tell you about your next steps and instruction? You begin to see the importance of you being in the classroom, catching those kinds of things, and then setting it up in the right way. So these are called all student response systems. Some are called ABCD cards. I love to have a set of them in a team or department. One teacher doesn't need to have a whole set. There could just be loners out there that we can use when we want to use them. We used whiteboards when we learned together. Whiteboards is another one. I think Home Depot gives them to teachers free. You can walk in and you say, I need 30 of them. Don't cut them according to your specification. We have technology for student response systems on our campuses. I'm just not sure if the teachers are accessing them all. So maybe what they need is a learning network specialist or a content specialist to kind of show the validity of using it and how to Sometimes we have teachers that say, I don't have time for that. I'm going to graduate school, I've got 3 kids at home. They're absolutely right. So just have the kids show you fingers. Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? What's unacceptable is not to check for understanding. So it's not about having a resource, it's about having the belief that if I really want to check for understanding, I will find a way to make it happen. So ABCD cards are one way in which we can check. You can also do agree, disagree. Agree, thumbs up. Disagree, thumbs down. Those who have thumbs down, tell me why. Those who have thumbs up, tell me why. Or all the thumbs up, come over here, come up with a rationale. All the thumbs down. You see what I'm saying? But to not stop instruction or not to check for what the students know is just not acceptable. It's just too easy to do it. So what we're looking for when we're checking for understanding is mistakes versus errors. And there's a difference. When we look for mistakes, or when mistakes happen, it's just they occur because of the lack of attention. Like I have a tendency to lock my keys in my car. Now I have a car that I can just go and code, so I'm safe now. But in the old days, that was really an obstacle for me. Because I usually have a lot going on. I usually have stuff in my hand. It was easy for me to lock my keys. That was just lack of attention. And kids will show you that they just made a mistake versus an error, because I said, no, this is not what I meant was this. I got it, this stuff. Right? Their whole behavior looks like that sometimes. When it's an error, that occurs because it's a lack of knowledge. In fact, the whole body, the whole demeanor of the student changes. Just ever have that glazed over look, all of a sudden you have the grand mal seizure going on in the classroom, you know. There's just that gap, and it's very evident. That's a teachable moment when we find them. Now you'll see this in the Super Bowl, perhaps. I don't know my facts of that, but perhaps you did. I know we saw it during this football season. When you watch two teams play, you hear the commentator say, watch that line, they're going to go for that rookie over there. And they're going to go to the right side every time. The boy had learned it. Didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the experience. They're going to take advantage of it. In education, we're looking for what students don't know. And we want to take advantage of it too. It's just that we want to provide the information and the scaffolding to help the student be successful. So mistake versus error is an important one for teachers to know because, you know, we get so caught up in our day-to-day routine. We'll take papers, we'll look at papers. Sometimes we grade them and we're not even paying attention to this. So we don't want to be robotic about our practice. We want to be thoughtful about our practice. And we want to look at every opportunity we can to look for what students know. So mistake versus error is a big one when we're teaching things like ABCD cards or whatever. Because let's say after ABCD cards, nobody still gets it, what do? Go back and reteach. Or if everybody has it, what do? Extend, move on. So from daily assessment to data analysis. So the minute-by-minute formative assessment is meant to be acted on right away in the action. Some of our teachers don't know that yet. So what we want is ease with the strategies, and then we want more automaticity with the teachers feeling comfortable using it more frequently, using the strategies more frequently. The day-to-day assessment occurs, like we talked about, from lesson to lesson. And what's so important about that is that if PLCs are alive and well on the campuses, they can use that student data and the information they're gleaning from their lessons to work collaboratively together for the next steps. Let's just say you're working with campuses and they don't get PLCs. Are you dead in the water? No. What would you do? Tell your neighbor. You got PLCs going, you got teachers that need help, but the PLCs aren't alive anymore. Tell your neighbor, what would you do in your role to help? So join me here. What are some alternatives? PLCs are there, they may not be functioning with an instructional focus. What can we do? Other than taser, what can we do? Well, you can be a part of that PLC, can you? If it's legitimized in their meeting, you can be a part of that. You can be invited. You can invite yourself. When you get invited to that, then you want to begin to have those conversations and make the connections between student work and whatever. So it's about finding one person in that team or department and using your congenial and your collegial influence to make a difference. Could just be that you're going to bring samples of student work that are interesting and show those too. But for sure, this is the heart of it. This is where we're working. I want to show you a teacher from, it's one of your stars from Diamond Hill. And she was actually, I think, in the October cohort group. And so, you know, on day 2, when you bring back student samples of your work, then this is what Elizabeth was talking about. See if you can hear her day-to-day, lesson-to-lesson design.
From Diamond Hill Elementary. The formative assessment that I used to end my unit was the exit slip. I had each student take the vocabulary from our financial literacy unit, and then with that explain what they really understood, what they were still wondering about, what they had figured out, what they didn't understand, or give an example of what they could do with the words. After they completed the formative assessment, that afternoon I sorted them by understood the concept completely, was developing an understanding of the concept, or did not understand the concept at all. So then the next morning, before the test, I pulled 2 small groups. I pulled my middle group, and I talked to them, and we discussed any misconceptions or things that they were still wondering about, maybe something that they weren't quite sure of. And then I pulled my second group, which was my group that either did not respond to the exit slip question at all, or responded in a way that was confusing or that didn't give any kind of insight into their thinking. And when I did that, I pulled that group, we discussed, I spent several additional minutes with them, and then I had both those groups rewrite their exit slip. I think what I learned from that was the power in watching my students move from not understanding and to fully understanding a concept, and seeing how impactful that was for them, to see their exit slips side by side from one day to the next, and know that with a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance that they can come so far in their learning. And also to know that you have a teacher that has the tools to find out what you know, find out what you don't know, and then do something about it, and do it quickly, and make changes. And so then now that they're going to take their test, they're actually taking it tomorrow, I just know that these students are going to come so far. This one in particular wrote, her first response was, I don't understand anything. And so her second response after we met was, I really got it when we talked about labor and income. Like, I'm cleaning my room, that's my labor. When I'm finished cleaning my room, my mom gives me money, and the money is my income. And that's the money that I earned. And I figured out that when we are spending money, we have to also save some for charity 4 people, and I will never forget this important step. And then she went on to do a Look What I Can Do, where she gave a pictorial representation of labor, income, spending, and charity, based on a 10-minute reteach. So, formative assessment, it's quick, it's easy, but it's so meaningful.
So, I'll start reading to you. So talk to your neighbor, please. What did you see her doing minute to minute, day by day? What attributes did you see in her testimony? You need more time, raise your hand. All right, so Tony back here. So I wonder if you said what I was thinking, and that was, you know, oftentimes when you get an exit ticket, the kid just goes, I don't know. Then some teachers just kind of let that pass. But Elizabeth said, oh no, that is not acceptable. I gotta go back. And so in this case, that exit ticket then began to be the next steps. And I think it was a mistake, did you? Thought there was some teachable room there. But it didn't take long. It didn't take long for this situation. Sometimes they do. What else did you talk about? So she dealt with the I don't know. She was not gonna let apathy or that kind of behavior be okay on the exit ticket. What else did you see? Yeah. Yeah, so intentionality about who to go back and work with and how to go back and work with it. Now, because of her success, do you think she'll keep using form assessment strategies? Yeah, it doesn't take much for the teacher to go, wow, why did I do that one? And so form assessment has a tendency to not only have kids involved at a different level, but teachers involved as well. So tests can be formative or summative. Tests by themselves are neither formative nor are they summative. It's the use to which given test results are put that makes the assessment part of the form and assessment process. So don't you think it's ironic that it's January and we're talking about formative? Because the rest of the universe is thinking what? What we want teachers to know is that formative assessment gets you ready for those summatives. And it helps you to be celebratory about those assessments. So even though we're sort of preoccupied about summatives, and rightly so, there are things we can start doing right now to make a difference in terms of what is going to happen with our students. I think STEM uses this statement a lot. But I think it's really important for teachers to know this. Let's just say we're taking end-of-course exams or 3-week courses or 3-week course exams or whatever our benchmarks are. And they turn out with some room for improvement. Our role as a learning specialist is to say, you know what, relax. It's our first attempt at learning. It's our first attempt at getting there. What I'm going to do with you to support you is a multitude of strategies to come back so that our second and third attempt will get us higher gain. That's the teachable moment. What I find happening though with teams and some campuses is that when those results come back less than what they really want, they become disillusioned. They lose their energy and their tenaciousness to hang in there. So sometimes it's because they just haven't hooked up with you yet. Because you know what to do. They just have to find you. I'll tell you what I said last week. I said, you have a team or you got a whole body of smart people. Something to support you to do that. They just do a phone call.
As I step out of that, I wanted to reflect really quickly as it's reached 40 minutes. In this reflection, I wanted to discuss something real quick. In this description, I'm going to go ahead and describe what's going on. Informative. Wait just 1 second.
I hope not. I want to be killed.
Informative assessment, Move It, Move It, Move It by Sandy Snow is a powerful professional development designed to build capacity for students understanding the process, and it involved educators learning. The purpose, empower a formative assessment, how intentional you have to be in your lesson design, the strategies that you can use to implement it, and the protocols of using formative assessment. During this observation, I felt that the presenter was very engaging as she addressed the audience. She walked around. She actually modeled formative assessments such as the A, B, C, D cards. Also, she modeled turn and talk. I feel that teachers would have the benefit from these strategies as it will guide thoughtful instruction. She modeled, she explained, and she even demonstrated a video where a teacher actually shared how an activity and how it helped her with the cards. The professional development went extremely well, and I will continue it as I finish this. I will continue to use this with the teachers in Fort Worth ISD in implementing formative assessment. As I model lessons, I will use the formative assessments more often to guide instruction. One of the most important pieces that I feel may hinder the situation is time. It does take time to read and reflect the exit tickets or the type of formative assessment that does guide the instruction to meet with the students in small groups to make sure you're checking for understanding. But that time is definitely valuable and needed, and I will assist to make sure this happens. All in all, formative assessments will get you ready for the big thing, summative assessment. It will make a difference in our students' lives, in our students' education every day. My role as a specialist is to support the teachers in the implementation of formative assessments, and I will do it in the classrooms as I model, co-teach, and plan in all of the buildings. So we are ready for the final summative assessment when it comes. I hope you have enjoyed this observation video. Again, my name is April Montague Jackson. I am in the certification program at Lamar University, and this is
for my observing video. Thank you very much.